The Hearthside Classroom. There were no desks, no slate boards, and certainly no ink. Mary Teft sat on a low wooden stool, the glow of a tallow candle casting flickering shadows against the lime-washed stone. In her lap lay the family's most prized possession, a Geneva Bible, its leather cover worn soft by decades of use. "Come now," Mary said, beckoning the boys away from the fire. She held up a hornbook, a small wooden paddle protected by a translucent sliver of animal horn. Joshua traced the letters of the alphabet with a soot-stained finger. In Rhode Island, where Roger Williams preached that every soul must find its own way to truth, being able to read the word for yourself wasn't just a skill. It was a spiritual duty. John sat nearby, cleaning a rusted hoe by the firelight. He listened as Samuel began to stumble through a passage from the Psalms. "The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof." "Do you hear that, Sam?" John interrupted softly. "The fullness isn't just in the book. It's in the timber we cut this morning. It's in the oysters you pulled from the Narrows yesterday. Writing your name is fine, but reading the land is how we stay alive." For the Teft children, the lessons shifted seamlessly from the spiritual to the practical. Geography was learned by walking the bounds of the Pettaquamscut Purchase, marking white oaks and granite boulders that define their inheritance. Arithmetic was practiced by counting the bushels of corn in the crib or calculating how many more stones were needed to finish the garden wall. Science was Mary's domain. She taught the girls how to read the bubbling of a lye pot to make soap, or which dried herbs from the rafters would break a winter fever. As the evening settled down, Mary closed the heavy Bible. She looked at her children, their faces bronzed by the sun and smudged with the ash of the frontier. They might never see a university or sit in a formal counting house in Newport, but they were becoming Rhode Island men and women, independent, literate, and deeply rooted in the soil. When John finally blew out the candle, the only light left was the red pulse of the embers in the great stone fireplace. The children climbed into their loft, the rhythm of the Geneva Bible's verses humming in their heads, unaware that they were the first generation of a legacy that would stretch for centuries across the very land they were learning to tame. Mary opened her journal and continued to write their story.
The firelight danced on the chimney wall, where the shadows of the Tefts grew tall. In the heart of the stone ender, thick and wide, with the Pettaquamscut ebbing outside, Mary sat by the hearth's warm glow, with a book in her lap from long ago, the Geneva Bible, its pages worn thin, where the stories of old and the lessons begin. No schoolhouse bell or a scholar's pen, just the voice of a mother, time and again. "A is for Adam," she'd softly say, by the light of a candle at the end of the day. The boys leaned in with their soot-stained hair, tracing the letters with diligent care, the hornbook held in a small, steady hand, a map for the soul in a wild, new land. For to read the word was to find the light, to guide their steps through the colonial night. John sat near with his leather and twine, watching his legacy start to shine. For a Teft must be sturdy, a Teft must be free, to read for themselves and to truly see. The mortar was shell, and the walls were of stone, but the Bible was the heart of the house they called home.